When you were building the most elite physique in the world, like, do you think that you were using the muscle and the accolades to hide something on the inside that you didn't want everyone to see?
I mean, look, you definitely have insecurity, right? I don't care who you are. You claim like, oh, I'm secure. Well, in every way, in my opinion, try bodybuilding, because you're being asked to be judged about your physique by people who may not even have the physique that you have. And your body of work, regardless of genetics, you're going to be judged, and it's not always going to feel good. So you're always just like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? And only to be validated by somebody else. Sometimes it stings, sometimes it doesn't. But I definitely believe, like, understanding that bodybuilding, at least for myself, is dealing with insecurities of feeling that you're not good enough, trying to develop a physique that would be good enough for other people to enjoy, but while still liking you on the inside. And that's where I feel was my journey, going through those shows up and through the end, always making sure that my value system wasn't based on being validated by other people. My value system was based on me just loving me for all my flaws.
I watched your documentary and it was so well done. And there was a part in there where you got your hernia and you lost at the Olympia trying to get your 8th title. The rehab began. You said something like the rehab you had to do on your heart and your mind was way more challenging than the hernia. Talk about that.
You have to exhale. The way I looked at the Olympia, when I say that it's the Olympia or nothing, that was the goal, to be the best. And then lo and behold, I wanted to be the best ever, the best of all time. And having that opportunity to tie greatness with 8-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney, only to come up short. And you're just like, damn it. And then wanting to come back. And then after surgery, I had to recognize the fact that every athlete, I would probably say over 90%, I'm willing to say 99% of like the elite have had some type of injury. And when I had mine, I had to dig deep and understand that that was just another opportunity to see how great I was on the inside, not just on the outside. So I did the work, man. I think back, like, logically, I should have taken 2-3 years off completely, just rehab. This was like right after I won number 7. I was actually told by a good friend of mine who happened to be the financier of this movie franchise called The Expendables, right? And flies my wife and I into Beverly Hills, and we're meeting with the people that make some decisions for that brand. And the guy literally looked at me and was like, he wants to tie 8-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney. And they're like, people outside this sport know who Arnold is, and he's a part of this franchise in a way. Why don't you just focus on stuff like that? And I was like, because I want to win 10 Mr. Olympias, And the logical side would say, Phil, like, you have so much other things that you can embark on. Here's an opportunity right here, and you still want to go back after just having surgery. I literally had this conversation like about 10 days after I had hernia surgery. And looking back at it, even as we speak about it, I'm like, I would have tried to get number 8 a million more times, just because, yeah, could I have possibly been in a film? Maybe. But you only get opportunities like this once in a lifetime. Like, how many people have tried to bodybuild? How many people have tried to be Mr. Olympia? How many people have become Mr. Olympia? How many have won 7? There's only 2. And how many people won 8 in the entire existence of mankind? So it's like, you just have to go for it. And I just knew that come today, I would be able to say, look, like, those surgeries did suck. And to have to sit there with myself, with those emotions of, what am I going to do now? Not having the ability to go to the gym, writing out my emotions, staring at that piece of paper and trying to make sense as to what my next move is and why I'm doing it. Oh man, it's allowing me now to have better reflection to do my public speaking, to do things that people see me doing on social media, to be more in tune with myself. Because if you're not deep within, like, how can you, really speak with conviction and passion and to inspire other people? So yeah, I mean, getting those surgeries, I'm actually thankful for them, because it was a necessary timeout that I needed, even though I didn't want it, to be able to sit my down and say, okay, now is your time to recalibrate. And also, to be fair, bro, one thing I didn't do was to acknowledge what I had accomplished. I didn't once. You can ask my wife, like, Phil didn't sit here and stare at those trophies in excitement. I stared at those trophies thinking about every painful moment. And now I realize that was wrong. Now I realized, wow, I really did do that. And I did a great job.
A lot of people, they have this fall. Maybe it's not as big as what you kind of went through because you were in the spotlight and you became the best of the best of the best, but they have this fall. And when they do, they have a hard time rebuilding belief and confidence in themselves. I know that was really impacted by everything that you went through after trying to win the 8th title. How did you rebuild your self-confidence and belief in yourself to make that comeback?
Having to realize that it doesn't matter about doing the show for others. See, I think a lot of the time, when the going gets tough, you say, pull from any other place for motivation. I'm doing this for my dad. I'm doing this for my parents. I'm doing this for my girlfriend. I'm doing it for my wife. Doing it for my kids. Doing it for the fans. Do this one for you. And that has to be okay. And I actually got some really good advice about that by chatting with Dwayne Johnson. I was invited through Danny Garcia to go watch him. I think he was filming Titan Games season 2. So we flew down to Atlanta, and I was in his trailer, and I was just chopping it up with him, man. And I had asked him some questions about, like, how he's made his, return, and like when he did a retirement through WrestleMania, and obviously now he's come back here and there. But, what was his mindset about? And he's like, I had to do it for me, because you end up not doing it for you. You always end up doing it for everybody else. And then you're the one that has to live with these consequences. You're the one that has to live with the emotions when the curtain closes. So he's like, you should probably do this one for you. You actually have to make the commitment that no matter what, win or lose, this is only for you, and you're moving on. Win or lose, you got to make this commitment. Like, you're moving on. And he was like, you'll thank yourself for it in the end. He's like, I know you could do this for many more years, but you got to make, like, I can already see it. And that's going to be hard. You got to sit with it. So I sat with it, and I was like, you know what? He's right. I'm just going to do this one for me. And when I got third, I was not happy, obviously, but I had to remind myself that this is for you, Phil. This is for all the Y's in the road that you chose greatness over complacency, over being a coward, over being out. Like, you didn't out. Like, you could have rode off into the sunset, winning number 7 and saying, I'm tired with Schwarzenegger, I'm out. No, you put that title on the line, and after being injured, who would do that? Not very many people. I didn't take the easy way out, but I didn't take the easy way in either. So yeah, it was a lot of obstacles, but I'm so glad I had that advice. I'm so glad I had, my wife involved, to really push me, because it was hard on her too. Like, she was dealing with her own physical pain. She was coming off a breast implant illness. She didn't have to, like, I should be more in tune with that, making sure she's okay. And I was, but of course, being a professional bodybuilder, you can only devote so much time. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth, because we're a team. Again, it was just so worth doing that last Mr. Olympia for me, because I'll always miss this stage. I'll always miss competing. I won't miss the pro tan. I won't miss the tanning products. I won't miss the smell of fish. I won't miss the smell of broccoli like that. I won't miss being super dehydrated, like not drinking water for 2 days. But I will miss being under those hot lights, being able to, flex, being able to share my body of work through physical expression of just hitting that muscular, those front double biceps that is just so cool. Like for anyone who's ever competed, they kind of understand what I'm talking about, but on the Olympia stage is something greater. I just have to thank God, to be fair about it all. I'm just thankful that God was in my life, at that moment. And I just ran with that. And I've been running with him ever since.
I heard you on another podcast say something like when you won the Olympia, you felt like you had just like arrived. You really didn't feel like this huge sense of achievement because you felt like that's what you were going to do. You knew you were going to do it. And it was expected of you, being that you were going to be the best. I'm curious, like when you're at the top like that and you have the spotlight on you at all times, like what's like the hidden cost of all that?
I think the hidden cost is losing yourself, doing it for everybody else instead of doing it for yourself, doing it for God. Like at some point you got to realize that and I think it happens. Like I watch documentaries too, and I see people, it's like you want to be the star. And then when you finally get it, you're on this roller coaster and you're like, whoo, like it won't stop. And you're like flipping upside down and you're just holding on, man. But like any crazy roller coaster, it does end at one point. During that roller coaster, you want it to stop. There's not that many times where I've ridden a roller coaster. I don't know about you, but I'm like, hey, like, no, there's times I'm like, okay, now I got the hang of it. Now I get okay. But for me, it was like that. It was like almost a 10-year roller coaster, man. And you're just holding on. And I guess my logical mind is just like, Phil, this will end at some point. You want it to stop, but it's going to end. And you're going to wish you're still on that roller coaster. You're still going to wish you enjoyed that ride. And it was scary and it was, went here and here. Enjoy it. But it was, sometimes I can't believe I did it. Sometimes I think, I must have been a chosen one from the beginning. And I get on my knees a lot and thank God for how it all worked out, because my beginnings was not about being a bodybuilder. My beginnings was wanting to be a basketball player, and through that disappointment of not playing in college, which I think about it now, I'm like, dude, like you actually went to a really good university, like on paper, like, what are you talking about? But I had to know what that disappointment felt like to go through the challenge of opening up a new door in bodybuilding. And opening those doors, you see a lot about who you are in the squat rack, leg press. Usually leg days are the days that you find out more about yourself than arm day, right? But also in those quiet moments where I would train at Armbrust Pro Gym late at night, and I would just close my eyes and I just be like, man, why are you doing this? You could easily quit at like 2, 3, 4 Mr. Olympias and just, sell product and, be happy. And I'm like, but that's not honest. And I guess, Doug, like I knew that like, I just didn't want to leave meat on that bone. I did not, because I know what that looks like for other athletes. And I think having that sports mindset of like, you watch ESPN way too much and you understand like the debates that people have about like who's the greatest. And the last thing I would ever want for my legacy is for people to say, he really did leave a lot of meat on that bone, man. He could have done more. Because honestly, they're telling the truth. When you look at the late Kobe Bryant, you know that he gave everything to that sport. And you look at the post interviews that he had like after retirement, he would talk about, I just watched one today. He was just talking about how he shot 1,000 shots a day before even games. Like he had this shooting routine. And I think it was Rob Dyrdek asked him, do you miss it? And he goes, no. They're like, sure? He's like, no, like I would never do that again. Like it was done. And I'm like, it's because he gave everything to it. He was able to close that chapter and acknowledge that he loved it. But does he want to do it again? No, like because he gave everything to it. And I feel like I gave everything to bodybuilding.
I think part of the challenge with your roller coaster in bodybuilding was how you went from like the hero to the villain. There's that like famous Harvey Dent quote in The Dark Knight that says like you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Talk about that, how that played out in your career.
I would say during filming Generation Iron, I didn't really understand the concept. I was thinking of it more like, and I understand, well, let me rephrase it. They brought that project to me as if like, okay, this is a full-on documentary about just like each individual that's getting ready for the show. We saved you for last, Phil, because we're going to tell you what everybody said. We're just going to get your take on these things. And I was like, oh, that's great. Like, this guy said what? Oh, this is what he really meant. This guy said what? And I'm making jokes, right? And I'm just being myself. Like, I'm barbershop talk, like the whole nine. Like, just I let them in my home. Oh, they come out. And I realized it was a docudrama. And some of this stuff was completely fabricated. Not just about me, but about Kai's life, Branch Warren's life, Dennis Wolf's life. Like it was my first real film. And then it was my first time seeing how things could be manipulated to serve a certain narrative. In my opinion, it was to serve a narrative that Kai Greene was going to be this rags to riches story and he was going to win the Olympia and ride off as like beating the guy that had everything handed to him. When in fact, I wasn't that guy at all. I didn't come up from the same beginning that he did, but I had my own journey, my own trauma, my own. When that film came out the year later, I had just won my third Mr. Olympia with a perfect score, right? So imagine this. Perfect score, not just perfect score, but I did one call out. And I watched the film with an audience and people like saw me there. And then they had such negative things to say about me. And I was like, you guys, what did you guys think? They're like, you're a cocky asshole. You're this, you're that. And I was like, tell me more. You know, like we're here. I'm not going to fight you, but I'm just really trying to understand what this means. Yeah, well, you just, you're the gift and like everything was handed to you and this and that. And I was like, the only thing that was handed to me was my parents and God, like that, and the opportunities that were presented to me. I took advantage of them. Isn't that what we're supposed to do in life? And I'm like, I got it. So then going ready for number 4, number 5, number 6, the heat turns up because now they're trying to see like this conflict with me and Kai and stuff. And then I realized I was like, they were just off at the winner. And at the same time, we were seeing Tom Brady win all these championships, these Super Bowls and stuff. So it was kind of like I was becoming like Tom Brady of bodybuilding. And even our league president, Jim Mannion, would say it. He was like, if he heard a couple of people chirping at the, when he's raising my hand in victory with the Sandow, he's like, yeah. He's like, oh, man, don't worry about that. F them. Like they're just because their guy didn't win. And you just keep showing up, kid. He's like, you won fair and square. It is what it is. You're the Tom Brady of bodybuilding. So when it came down to it, I was like, all right, I guess I'm the only person that can take this criticism and I'm going to fire back and I'm going to call myself the dream killer and I'm going to be the hero villain that they asked for. And I'm just going to piss them off even more. If they're really that eager to see me lose, well, go ahead and buy a ticket. We got your money now. I'm just going to leverage it and I'm going to make money off of it. Just like any prize fighter would, any real athlete that's on pay-per-view, they're going to get the crowd going. It's all good. Like, you guys want to see me lose? Fine, go buy a ticket. You guys want to see me lose? Go buy the pay-per-view. And I'm just going to crush these you know what I mean? I'm just going to kick the shit out of them. And you're going to be ripping up your tickets and stuff. I had people like betting on the Olympia. And I had people that bet on me, buying me cocktails at the after party saying, hey, man, you just won me a bunch of money, man. It was wild, but it was a great time because I feel like even through that rivalry, I got to learn a lot about people. I got to learn about people that were even in my own inner circle. I got to see like how some people were just so enamored by someone's success and then just wanting to see them lose at the same time. And it was just weird, man, because the same people that wanted to see me lose now in 2025 hit me up and were like, after watching Breaking Olympia, especially, they're like, I had you all wrong. I should have been embracing greatness while it was in front of me, but I was resisting. I was the one writing vlogs about you. I was the one cursing your name when I should have just been impartial to the fact that you're giving us something to look at, because what we have right now isn't the same. Because since I lost in 2018, we've only seen a person win 2 Mr. Olympias consecutively. We've got Sean Roden, rest in peace, Ramy, Hadi, Derek, Samson. So we got 5 different champions since 2017. That's a lot. So it may not happen again. Like what Dwayne Johnson said, you can look at the trailer, you can watch Breaking Olympia. He said, he was like, we may not ever see that again. So it was one of those things where I was like, I had to be able to embrace the fact that you're not always going to be liked. You may not be loved, but you will be respected. People will respect hard work. They will respect the mental fortitude that it requires to do the job. And people will come around. And I can say this to anyone watching. It's like, if you're worried about validation from other people, don't worry about that. Just be more concerned about your race, your game. Focus. Understand that people are going to love you. They're going to turn on you. They're going to hate on you. They did it to Jordan. They did it to Kobe. They did it to all these athletes. And then when the dust settles and they talk about who's the greatest, you should hope that they talk about you based on what you did and how you made them feel. And I know how I made people feel. That I know that they still line up at expos. They tell me like, man, those are the greatest times, man. You and Kai Greene, man, like you made them feel something, and they knew that my hard work, it came from passion. It came from grit. It came from the demons too. It came from not feeling good enough, but I did it just to give an opportunity for myself and for others to see something unique.
So was the rivalry between you and Kai, that was like 100% real? It wasn't hyped up at all?
That was as real as a freaking $100 bill, man. Like that was real, bro. Like that was. If Kai Greene showed up at my house right now, I don't know if I'd let him in. I'd let him in. I'd be like, "Is this like what kind of visit is this? Like, what are we doing?" And it's just. I think we both have this. It's not even like a love-hate. It's just energy, man. We just have this energy. And we're kind of like, but I will give him credit. And I've said this before. When I lost in 2018, I didn't have too many IFBB pros call me up, text me. Kai Greene was the one that called me. And we had a really powerful conversation. He was one of the only guys in the IFBB that called me to actually pick me up when I was down. Imagine that. So, yeah, I mean.
What did he say to you?
I mean, he basically said they didn't go against the Phil Heath I went against. They went against an injured Phil Heath. And he was like, no matter what people will say, they're not going to acknowledge it. He was like, Phil, they're not going to admit this because you're like the greatest. He was like, and I competed against that guy. And I know you weren't at your best because you were hurt. He's like, but you gave it everything you had. And I respect that. And of course he was like, this better not be recorded. You like, F you, man. Like, he was like, but real talk, man, like respect. But just know that they did not. He was like, and I'll tell people, it's like, they didn't go against the Phil Heath that I had to compete against because they would have no chance at that dude. An injured one, they have a slight chance. And he's like, they had a slight chance. And they made a decision. He goes, I don't think they made the right one, but, so it was a really good moment because it's like, here I am, the guy that prevented him from becoming Mr. Olympia. He's the only one that really called while I was down about not achieving number 8, which was my goal. I didn't call him when I was beating him all those years. So there's a lot of character. And I have a lot of appreciation as the years go by of how he showed up during that moment. Because I don't know, and I should have asked him, and I probably will have to ask him, like, what made you pick up the phone? And that will be something I'm sure I probably will ask in person and probably never will share. Because I think sometimes those conversations, unless if he wants it to be shared, but I really am appreciative of the rivalry with Kai Greene. I don't care what anyone says. It's like, and maybe I'm biased. Obviously I'm biased. There's nothing like it. It was so organic, and it was the first of its kind in social media era. Anything else is more like BS, like the fans were crazy. They were literally Team Kai, Team Phil, F Phil Heath shirts being made, like all this stuff. It was insane. You just had to be there, man. And again, you got Ronnie and Jay. They can actually be in the same room together. They can hold hands. They can do seminars together. When have you ever seen Kai and I in the same room like that? And it's not like hate. It's just one day, I think, one day we'll make it happen.
It takes a lot of emotional discipline, fortitude, consistency to do what you did. And I think people have a hard time kind of maintaining their emotions while they're trying to be the best at whatever it is they're doing, or trying to achieve something and trying to deal with the unknown, all these things that go into it. Like, how did you stay like emotionally sound while trying to be the best?
Emotional regulation is, I think, the hero's journey of a man. It's like our journey as a man to understand what emotional regulation. I think for me, it was more like you have a mission. That mission is going to take you to different places of the unknown. You're going to have to be more intuitive as to what triggers you. And are those things that trigger you serve the greater purpose? And how can you manipulate it? Like if they're like, for instance, like if someone says something crazy to me on social media, I may engage with it. But if I internalize it to where it paralyzes my movement, then it doesn't serve me. But if I can use it as actual fuel, or should I say nitrous, oh man, bring it. I don't care. Like, it's actually fun. Now it's a game. So, I gamify everything. I allowed the love, the hate, oh man, I wanted it all. It was just energy. I was just like, give it. Come here. And would I say it allowed me to be kind of toxic? I don't know, maybe to certain people. Did I look rigid in front of certain people? I'm sure, because I still have people be like, man, like you're like such a different dude, like in person as you appeared online or this or that. And I'm like, yeah, because you probably had it in your head that I was actually a dream killer, like, like a person that wanted to like cut your head off. When in fact, I'm just a normal dude that loves sports, loves God, loves my wife, friends, just normal, but I will say it made me just be the ultimate competitor, man. That's all I cared about, is being the ultimate competitor. And I think I was taking advantage of the fact that, honestly, a lot of these guys just aren't competitive. They say it nonstop on social media, but when it really comes down to the emotional intelligence, they punk out, they out all the time on the cardio. Because why doesn't someone get lean? Because they out on their prep. They didn't do the cardio. They think they know everything. So they have massive amounts of ego. They can't keep that in check. They ruin every relationship they're in because they may have out, and not figured out when to be quiet and just understand that other people have a point of view and you need to learn to listen. And when to say to your friends, like, hey man, this ain't for me, bro. I can't be around you right now. I had to do all those things. I had to distance myself from certain people, certain things. And yeah, I mean, my emotions wanted to run away from my problems, but instead of running away from problems, I ran toward greatness. So Doug, like, think about, like, we go to the gym. We all go to the gym. You're either running from something that is troubling you, your trauma, anger, frustration, addictions, whatever, or you're running to something. I chose to run toward greatness and leave all that other behind. What I learned later was that I still got the stuff I left behind. There might be certain things that I still need to address. And that's where you have to have grace and give yourself permission to be great and give yourself permission to be human. And that means that you're not always going to be understood. You're going to put your foot in your mouth sometimes. You're not going to be perfect. But as long as you give a damn about your success more than anybody else, don't doubt, meaning like, don't just let your ego to override like real logic. Don't do that. You should know, like, even if you're on tons of PEDs, like, you should still know, like, hey man, this is enough. I need to breathe, calm down. Does this serve the greater good? Does this serve me being a person that has a great life and a great legacy? And it's as simple as that. The hard part is, again, when you get pressed, when you have that pressure, what tools do you have to calm that down? Because if you don't, like, you're going to just be an animal, frontal lobe gone. Like, you're just going to do stupid stuff and you're not going to achieve anything. You're going to be the guy or the girl that just had everything. And imagine if you don't have the emotional regulation, you can actually have the blessings be taken away from you because you just squandered it. Because everyone that is great at something, in my opinion, whether it be CEO, parent, leader, has to have the ability to, okay, yeah, that stung, but I know how to, see what I did with my teeth? Yeah. Doug's right. Yeah, he called me out. He's right. I can work on that. And I will. And when I do, I'm going to be better. And I'm going to do it today. That's it.
This episode is brought to you by Live On Labs. If you are someone who is constantly stressed, feeling depleted, and exhausted, I have some exciting news. My friends at Live On Labs have an incredible deal I can offer you. When you buy any product at full price, you get a free carton of their highly popular B-complex product, which I take every day. Taking a B-complex supplement can also help support things like a healthy metabolism, increased energy, blood sugar balance, and learning. Vitamin B supplements can help replenish nutrients depleted from stress. Live On Labs puts years of research into each product, which is why I stand behind them. Using liposome encapsulation technology, these products promote elite absorption so the supplements get into your cells and give you the best benefits that you're looking for. Right now, you can get a free carton of Lipospheric B Complex Plus, which is a $56 value with any full price purchase from liveonlabs.com. This supplement has the B vitamins and minerals that you need to help turn food into sustained natural energy throughout the day. Just add B Complex Plus and any other full price supplement to your cart and enter code BOPES24 at checkout to get this amazing deal. Now back to the show. I imagine dealing with temptation and instant gratification had to be something you had to get like really, really good at. I feel like when people are like, all right, like, who would you go to as a role model who actually masters like staying away from temptation? They would look at somebody like yourself because you had to be 100% like dialed in, when you had to be in order to get to the level you were at. Like, what were some of the tricks you used to like not fall into not fall at prey to temptation?
I think focusing on the end result, which is I want to win. Well, of course you want to win, but how do you want to feel? Well, you want to feel like you did everything in your power to win. Because the last thing you want, and for me, this is how I thought about it. The last thing I want to do is be standing up there on a stage with barely any clothes on. You're pretty much naked. And you're being judged on how you look, not by anything else. Not by how hard you train, not by nothing. It's just how you look. Man, the last thing you want is to think, I should have done this. Yeah, I shouldn't have went out with my friends. Yeah, shouldn't have went out drinking with my spouse. I know it was a birthday and stuff, but yeah, yeah, we could have planned that out another time, or I could have just made it about her and me just drink water, lemonade, or, iced tea. I didn't have to have Long Island iced tea, like I didn't want that. That was my greatest fear, man. It's like, all right, so you're going to go up there, you're going to sacrifice supposedly everything, all to have a cheat meal when you're not supposed to, or overindulge in something. I mean, look, I sacrificed everything, and I knew what that meant, to the point where my coach, Honey Rambo, would actually have to tell my wife, Cherie, Phil's not eating those cheat meals, huh? No, he's not. Can you make him do it? No, I can't. Phil, why won't you do it? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to be on stage, and if I don't look the way I want to look, I'm going to blame myself for eating that cheeseburger, even though it might help me during that period of time. It was so hard for me to even do those things because I wired myself to make sure that I did everything possible to be clean cut, like ready to rock and roll. And the proof was in my performance. But yeah, that's how I kept myself in check. And I also believe that, like, what if, Phil, you have an off night and this other dude had his best night ever? You got to be so good that you're like Jordan, man. Like, Jordan can have an off night and still win. Maybe you win by a little bit, but you're still good enough. But you don't give yourself that opportunity if you're out screwing around. I could easily rest on the fact that, oh yeah, man, I got probably some of the best genetics. I've been an athlete my whole life. At the time, no injuries, nothing like that. Have great body parts, great flow. I'm already a champion. People love me. People may hate or whatever, but I got the attention. I could kind of, yeah, I could probably kind of screw around. These guys don't come in as shredded as me. I kind of like not do as much cardio. Hell no, I'm going to do twice as much because I want to create distance, because it's also a psychological thing. If I can psychologically beat you, oh man, I can now demoralize you. I can make you almost regret showing up and standing next to me. I don't think many people understand that level because they haven't experienced it. But that's what the Michael Jordans did. That's what the Usain Bolts did at his prime. That's what Michael Phelps did, slapping the freaking water when he was in there before he raced. It was to rev themselves up and to intimidate anyone in the room and to let them know, if you plan on beating me, you're going to have to be at your all-time best. And even at your all-time best, I'm probably still, even on an off night, I'm still going to beat you. So you're just here to watch me do my work. And some people call that arrogant, cocky, whatever. But like Kid Rock said, it ain't cocky if you back it up. And I was willing to back it up with the work. So that's what made it really dangerous, I think.
Was there ever a point where you're like all or nothing mentality and feeling ashamed if you kind of cheated a little bit and weren't perfect? Was there ever a point where that caught up with you, like in your relationship or like in like real life?
I mean, I would say 2014 was pretty tough because, I had lost my father, and then that after that Olympia, so I lost my dad, and like, it was actually a couple of days from now. Yeah. So like 11 years ago. So yeah, training through that was tough. Then winning the Olympia, and then I was on tour. And then at the time, I ended up having a separation from my now ex-wife. So I had that, and then that went into the following year. So you're dealing with that. Divorce is never easy, especially on a man. I have to laugh about it because that's just the reality of it, right? And still recognizing that, look, man, you're a public figure. I mean, people are going to be in your business. You're going to have, you want to date, you're going to want to do your thing, and everybody's going to be up your. So then I was just like, man, like I really don't want people in my business, but I got to be about my business. I got to triple down on everything. And I wanted to shut down, to be quite honest. I wanted to just close myself off from the world. And I feel like I did in some ways, but then I realized like I have a mission. And that mission was just to recognize that you're not the only person in the world that lost a father, that had a divorce, that is trying to run a business. You're a professional. And Doug, that's what I kept telling myself. Phil, you're a professional. It says professional bodybuilder. That means that you're not always going to be put in the most advantageous scenario to win. You're going to be tested, man. And this is part of that. And I hope I'm answering it for you, because for me, I was just like, man, like, is this all worth it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, like, obviously I wasn't the best husband. Otherwise I would have still been married, right? Like, or at least, been able to walk away in a different way. Am I really enjoying this life? Traveling 200,000 miles a year? Is this what my purpose is? Like, I'm like living alone for like the first time. Like, are my friends really my friends? Or are they only here because I can get them into the nightclub and meet women and do all this other stuff? I had to deal with that. And I found the answers. I had to pray about it. And I was just like, man, next thing you know, yeah, we're really only rocking with you, Phil, because you have access to things that we can't get on our own. That hurt. And luckily, my now new wife, Cherie, was able to show it to me and prove it to me, even when I was stubborn as hell. But, what's interesting is, like, you pray for certain things and you don't really realize it comes in a different package. And it came in a package with my wife. And so I wanted to know, like, who my friends are, this and that. God gave me the new wife, girlfriend. She was like, no, watch out for this one, this one, this one. I know that's your homie. That's your boy. Just watch. Next thing you know, he does something stupid. He does something ignorant. This guy does something behind my back. I'm like, holy smokes. Oh, man. Now and I'm doing this while still having to win Mr. Olympia, still signing autographs, still smiling, and then not hating the industry. Like you want off the roller coaster, you want a breather. You're thinking, hey, I'm ready to tap out because I just want to deal with some life stuff. I don't even want to go to the gym. And then you're like, then the ego is like, no. I kept you alive, Phil. What are you talking about? Don't you love being the best? Don't you love this part? Yeah, but we'll deal with that later. So I was able to kind of like manage those voices and those whispers and stuff, and then just realize, like, you know what, man? I don't want, like, I'm just keeping it real with you, Doug. It's like, you know what, man? Don't doubt, man. Because, again, you have a privilege right now that many people would die for. Many people have died trying to do what you're able to do. And you can do it without killing yourself. Physically. But don't kill yourself mentally. And definitely don't kill yourself emotionally. Don't do that to yourself. You tried that before. Don't do that now. And just ride this thing out the best way you can. You're gonna be fine. Just ride this out. So that was really just my North Star. Just like, all right, just ride it out the best you can. You're not gonna be perfect. You're gonna deal with emotions. Some are gonna be suppressed. But right now, you're gonna win these Olympias, man. You're gonna be the champion. You got so many millions of people that love to watch you do this. So you owe it to them. And you owe it to your future self. And you owe it to your current self. And that's, in a nutshell, like, I have to tell myself that, because I didn't really have like a big brother or a mentor, a cousin, an uncle to kind of sit me down and kind of walk me through it. My parents were not involved in that capacity to kind of nurture that. I just had to kind of do it. And I think that's why I trained by myself all those years. Because you have to be still. And some nights, like you play the music real loud. Some nights you don't. Some nights you don't play music at all. Having a gym to yourself. Sometimes you just need to hear the weights clang and bang. And sometimes you need to sit there and kind of let the emotions flow through you. And sometimes you need to cry it out. But one thing I made sure I didn't do, and that was just to completely give up on my goal. And that was to attempt to be the best bodybuilder to ever walk the earth. Because I knew that was my mission,
Yeah. You went through a lot, like mentally and emotionally, and it's interesting. Like when you won the 7 Mr. Olympias, like you didn't fully like love yourself for who you were. And then you mentioned in your documentary that when you placed third after bouncing back, it was the first time you loved yourself in a really, really long time. Like what was what was the road to healing like for you mentally and emotionally?
Whew. It was, really just being present, man. Asking yourself, why don't you love yourself? Maybe because you put that in the hands of other people through the validation, through the social media, through your parents or whatever it is, like, oh, I can't love myself until I win something because maybe I was raised or not on purpose. But look, people perform for love all the time. You don't get the A grade. You don't get the same pat on the back with a B grade. You don't get hugged the same way if you got a C. You get the high fives when you're A, and it's usually your parents bragging at everybody else about you scoring that bucket or getting that grade than them just acknowledging you. So yeah, man, I mean, it just, all of that. It was hard to deal with early on. It was hard to deal with coming back and just realizing like, dude, if you knew you were dying and you watched your father die, like you weren't in the room, but you were there a week prior, what did he want? He just wanted to see your face. He wanted to be around you and your brother and his wife. And he just wanted to know that any conversation I wanted to have, we could just be present. That's really all you want at the end of the day, is just people that really truly care about you to accept the reality that you may not be here and that you're good. And I had to learn how to be good with myself. I had to make good and had to make peace with the decisions that I made, the regrets that I may have had, and just acknowledge the fact that like some of that stuff, you just got to let it go and allow it to mold you into something better. When they say make your mess your greatest message, I mean, you have to focus on that part too. And that's not always the case when you're trying to, build a physique, but man, you literally have to take your and try to mold it into something. Otherwise, you're just a blob of nothing. And emotionally, you will wreck yourself. You will wreck every blessing. And I just couldn't live with myself with that. So like even coming back in 2020, I was like, man, like you got to really know why you're doing this. You really got to love this because you ain't going to go back. You ain't going to, people will still ask like, hey, you coming back? I'm like, no. They're like, you look great. I'm like, thank you. But no. It's a special thing though. I'm thankful that people ask that still. At first I got kind of like uptight about it. And I was just like, no, like you gave them something to marvel at. And they're just basically saying that they believe in you.
A lot of people, when they're faced with adversity in their life, fitness becomes like the go-to thing to channel that negative energy into. I remember when I was locked up and I was in jail, when I was dealing with a lot of pain in my life, I got into fitness. And one of the things that people would tell me is think about like what makes you angry when you're working out. And I would, and I was somehow able to like use that as a vessel to become stronger, to stay more disciplined, etc. I would love to hear your thoughts on like, how have you been able to use like pain to your advantage and push through when things get tough?
Well, yeah, tapping into that alter ego, become a superhero, right? Or a supervillain, anti-hero, whatever you want to call it, but you become very powerful. I was able to tap into anything that upset me, any person that wronged me. And the crazy part is that it becomes very dark, right? And then you get told that like, you got to embrace the dark side and stuff like that. I understand it more now, but at the time, I mean, it was, man, like, it's almost like you're seeking, like, you talking, all right, fine, I'm going to use it, But I was able to use it better than everybody else, I think, because I do believe that there's a lot of bodybuilders out there. There's a lot of guys that got in their own way to even become a bodybuilder. A lot of people couldn't get through their emotions to become a bodybuilder, let alone a champion bodybuilder, right? They couldn't get through the diet or the training, the regimen. So they just probably stayed angry. Whereas for me, I was like, man, if I'm going to have all this pain, man, I'm going to use it. And I would just use it for every step on the freaking step mill. You know, I did that step mill 45 minutes a day, twice a day, sometimes, you know, for weeks on end, like no 6-7 days a week, you know, for weeks. We all know guys won't do that. And I was like, hey, I'm going to tap into that pain, even when the squats would hurt or whatever. Like if I felt pain during the workout and it wasn't like a strain, I would start smiling and giggling. And I don't know where that came from. It had to come from like when I was a kid or something like that. Like you think you can hit me? You know what I mean? It was almost like watching Bloodsport. And there's a scene. Now I know where this came from. There's a scene in Bloodsport where Jean-Claude Van Damme is fighting this dude and he lets him hit. He goes, come on, come on. And the guy kicks him in the ribs. Jean-Claude Van Damme in that movie, Frank Dukes, like he was training to get kicked like that to allow himself to remove all the emotions where pain could not destroy him. He was undeniable. He was invincible. I tricked my mind of like, you're invincible. Like this pain. Oh man, bring it. Come on, let's go. And no pain. It's like Rocky IV. No pain. People get revved up off of that. I lived it. There was no pain. And I wanted to inflict pain, not physically, because this was in boxing, but through the weights. I had to remind those weights who the f I was. And I came here to beat the shit out of them and to allow myself a moment of not feeling pain on stage. You know, it's so crazy, bro. All for that moment to feel victorious. And it's very brief. just for the moment of like, yep, I won.
So every time you won the Olympia, did it just feel like you were just at the top again? Like you just had to regain, you know, your status at the top. And then when you lost, did you just feel like you were completely worthless for that moment?
I think it was, yes. I think the way I framed it in my mind was mountains. First summit, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. You're trying to go for the eighth. And now the terrain has only been done by 2 other people in the world ever. And you slip and you fall. And that's a long fall. Even though the guy that beat you, he only went to that first level. You had to fall big. And yeah, man, it was it hurt very, very deep because I had also suffered an injury. So, you know, you don't want to discredit someone's victory off of your, you know, injury and stuff. But I have to tell myself now, like, even like, bro, like you weren't healthy. That's a fact. Give yourself credit for the fact that you still showed up the best you could. And yes, the fall did hurt. It was painful. But I had to tell myself then, just like how if I have I still work through some of it. You have to tell yourself periodically, like, you're okay. What did you learn? I have to ask myself this. So what did you learn when you lost? Like, what did you learn about your friends, family, fans, the industry? What'd you learn? What did you learn about your body? That it still showed up for me after having that surgery. It still showed up for me. I could have got third. I could have got fourth. I could have got fifth. They could have did whatever they wanted. Like, even though I don't believe that I lost, to be quite honest, I still don't believe it. But they made the choice. I chose to still get on my knees and pray to God the same way I did when I won. And that was to keep my integrity intact. Because when you watch the film, you're able to see it. So at least I knew that I had a standard. At least I knew that I wasn't a fake. but yeah, that fall, like I said, breaking Olympia, I felt like I should have walked home, because that's just, I guess, just maybe it's a toxic competitive trait, but I care that deep. I care that deep that like it's all or nothing. And, like I said, I still battle with it. I'm able to acknowledge it in a different light of just saying that, thank God that my body showed up for me the way it did, even after, 3 weeks out when I cinched my belt and my incisions tore. I'm like, at least you showed up, and at least you still got a payday out of it. You could have walked away with zilch, so there's got to be gratitude, even in the fall.
Totally. And speaking of like competition, I know that you did a lot to separate yourself. Like what was your training like in nutrition that, really allowed you to separate yourself and be the best of the best?
I feel like I was able to, when it comes to the training, it was understanding that I trained with no training partner. And also my coach lived in California while I lived in Denver. So there would probably be like a handful of times a year where we actually get together and actually get a workout in. So it'd be less than 10 workouts I would see my coach. So it was really all on me in my environment. So I had to create an environment that would promote positivity. I wasn't the heaviest lifter in any bodybuilding gym. I mean, there's guys that, that bench press 5 plates like it's nothing. And I'm like struggling with 5 plates, so I knew my limitations. And I knew also what my goal was. Like, I was like, well, you don't have to do 5 plates. You could do 4. Maybe just do 3 1/4. Like, how about that? Just stimulate, not annihilate, like what Lee Haney would say. And be smart, because, you saw Ronnie get hurt, Jay tore bicep, Dornier tore bicep and tricep. Like, these are all Mr. Olympias. You want to be in this game for a long time, even after it's all over. So you got to be mindful of like, your training regimen. So my training regimen was like 6 days a week, 6 days straight and then 1 day off. So like Monday through Saturday, Sundays off. High volume, lots of volume. We're talking like 4 to 5 different exercises, 3 to 4 working sets. Like, and the intensity was there because I only did like 60 to 90 seconds resting period. So I'm sweating. One of the things I think a lot of people fail at is like, they don't reach it intensity by, 3 to 5 minutes on the social media, scrolling and stuff. You're kind of cold and you want to be moving. So I did that. And then the cardiovascular work, I mean, I was doing, like I said before, I backed off cardio a little bit depending on how I was looking. Some years were different where I was coming in too fast. But as far as diet is concerned, early on, I wasn't able to do a lot of red meat, even though I knew that that was really good for me. I would do a lot more chicken, fish, and doing pounds of fish a day is just disgusting. But people have this weird misconception of like the it's like, I can't pronounce it. It's like a certain type of acid that's like in tilapia and some other fishes that actually, help lean people out. I remind myself that, fish is obviously a lot easier to eat and to chew, like, when you're having in large quantities. So I was able to do that a lot. I did a lot of, I would say, moderate to low carb diets. I didn't have like a extreme high calorie prep. It was no 6,000, 7,000 calories. It was more like 3,500 to 4,000, maybe 4,200. And I would just raise the protein, lower the carbs, increase the fats. It was pretty simple. But with the cardio being is where it was, I think a lot of people would see that like, oh, well, you're probably getting rid of your gains by doing that. And it's like, well, that's when you just manipulate carbs and fats and proteins a different way. So I just go by how I looked, not by how I felt. If I felt like I had to understand like, well, why? Like, like really write things down. So I kept a journal, I journal like things and, how I looked, and I'd take pictures every week and stuff that I would either share with my coach or stuff that I just curated for my own personal, well-being. I just wanted to know like, okay, well, 12 weeks out from the Olympia in 2011 compared to 2012, 13, and so on and so forth. What did I weigh? What did I look like? What did I train? What was I eating? What was I taking? All that stuff. So I was very meticulous about everything.
What would you say your like 5 favorite exercises of all time are if you had to pick 5?
5. Okay. So incline Incline dumbbell bench for sure. I feel like everybody chooses flat, but I think incline is dope. Underhand barbell rows for sure. Hack squats, side laterals. You got to have that. You got to have side laterals.
What's your favorite way to do those? Because I feel like a lot of people kind of mess them up.
Yeah, I mean, I've done them like straight out, and then I've had them a little bit more forward. I've done them all which way. I've done them like behind the back, and I've gotten into it with science people about it and stuff, and I'm like, no, you're supposed to do it this way, but like, yeah, but your shoulder the way it is. I'm like, I don't know, but I would definitely say, one-arm preacher curls. I love those. One-arm preacher curls are so awesome. Because you usually get people doing it with both arms, but like one arm, you can really feel it. And then anytime you can supinate that wrist and you can use that offhand that spot you, like that's key. Because it's kind of hard to spot yourself, like when you're doing a one-arm dumbbell curl, standing up and stuff. It kind of will, a lot of body English, whereas like when you're on a pad, it's a little different. But I'd say those are my 5.
And like a lot of the average lifters, general population, when they're looking to improve their physique, get lean, get jacked, they often, follow people like you and other bodybuilders to like find some sort of routine that they can kind of try to model. What are some of the biggest like mistakes you see with people when they're trying to get lean and build muscle?
Lack of cardio. I think everybody does very little to none, and they always use the same excuse, like, I don't want to get rid of my gains. And I'm like, well, what makes you think that you gained 10 pounds in 1 year anyway? A lot of it's just inflammation. So I think that a lot of misconception is like, oh, that's real muscle. It's like, probably not. You only really find out like when you do an actual prep, in my opinion. It's really hard to gauge that when you have inflammation and such. But other misconceptions is that people that are natty can't do the same workouts as someone that is enhanced, which I can completely argue against, because when I first started competing, I was reading Flex magazine and was copying every line from Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. I did every workout that they did, every one of them. And same with Sean Ray, Chris Cormier, Kevin Lebroni, like the rest goes on and on and on. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is like when people say, oh, well, I'm natty, so like, I don't recover the same. It's like, you'll recover very well if you're eating and you're resting and you're staying hydrated. If you're focusing on the diet the way you're supposed to and everything else, I think you'll be just fine. But I think a lot of the people have the misconception of the training aspect and the recovery aspect. And when I say recovery, the last thing, where are you treating yourself? Like, how are you recovering as a professional or as an aspiring competitive athlete? If you were a basketball player, a football player, if you're getting paid millions of dollars, you would be recovering chiropractic, deep tissue massage, like infrared saunas, hyperbaric. Like, you would be doing these things. The fact that people go into this wanting to get gains and refuse to invest money into the recovery aspect is like mind blowing. It's crazy to me.
You brought up the natty thing, and I know you've been open about like PED use. Like we talk a lot about longevity on the podcast, and obviously like one of the main like negative things, regarding PEDs. And even when people look at like the best bodybuilders, it's like, all right, are these people going to die at like 45, 50 years old from a heart attack from excessive PED use? Like, was there ever a concern for you as far as like longevity and how you use things to enhance what you were already doing?
I think the first time I ever used, I was like, okay, am I going to die? Man, this burns. Like, what's going on here? Like, am I going to be like, what am I going to feel? And I'm realizing like, it takes weeks for me to see the results. I think also the way I looked at it was I was around a lot of bodybuilders that were abusing, to be quite honest. And I got to see that while they were abusing themselves, I was actually a better bodybuilder than they were naturally. I might not have been as big, but I knew the quality of the muscle. It just looked different. Like I was able to be like, okay, well, he doesn't have like the splits in his biceps like I do. Like the triceps are striated. Yeah, my legs aren't really striated because I haven't really trained legs, but they will over time. But my glutes get lean. Huh. And he's on all this stuff, all this pharmacology. Okay. When I, began that, I was like, you're going to do the least amount because at least then you know that it is always going to rely on your natural ability and your work ethic. And then as I turned pro, I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And I didn't have a coach. I turned pro on my own. So I'm reading all these books and stuff. And I'm also watching people screw up. So I just wanted steady, like low this, low that, like moderate, like just understand. I mean, I can say this now, like, we didn't have social media. So it wasn't about like looking ripped every single day. We could have an off season of 3 to 4 months where you're off, like actually off. Huh. What does that mean? So when kids look at old pictures of bodybuilders like fat and happy, it was because they came completely off. They probably stopped training for 2 months. They gave them their bodies a time to just rest. Excuse me. And that's what I did. So I just learned those things. And I just was like, I don't have an addictive personality. I didn't feel like I should just be ramming up a bunch of gear and stuff like that. I didn't do growth until my second Arnold Classic. And because of the patience, I got to see the reward. You're never going to see another IFBB pro probably that did the same protocols I did through the NPC in his first 2 years of the IFBB pro and get the results that I have because they're starting too early. So you talk about delayed gratification. There's very little delayed gratification in this because they're not only competing against guys on stages, but they're competing against guys online. So they're doomed if they don't have a sense of like, hey, I'm youthful, I'm young, I need to just learn how to diet, I just need to learn how to train. And people will say, well, I've been training since I was 13, and now I'm 19, I'm talking about get on some gear. I'm like, just because you've been training for 6 years doesn't mean you know everything. You still got great natural years ahead of you. And quite frankly, a lot of these people that are doing this too early don't have the genetics to actually be Mr. Olympia. So they should kind of just like hold off. What's the rush? So yeah, my path was a little different. I wanted it more longevity. And then being 45, I'm 45. I can actually say that my muscles actually still look good because I didn't abuse.
And so you're confident that you're doing all the right things to make sure that you're, living as long as you would have had you have not taken any gear.
I mean, look, like that I don't know because it's not like I have like some crystal ball that says like, hey, Phil, like you were supposed to live to 102 and now because of your PEDs, you're going to be at 80. I don't know that. What I do know is that I did the blood work. I was being mindful of how I trained, how I took things, how I didn't abuse, how I recovered, post-show, because I feel like a lot of damage happens like post-show because diuretics are used, things like that are done. You could really mess yourself up, after shows. And I only competed once, if not twice a year. So I wasn't really like putting my body through that type of stress. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I signed up, for whatever comes my way, right? But I'm also being more meticulous as to how I go about my life as a 45-year-old male. Just yesterday I got ozone, therapy. Like I'm learning about all these different modalities and I've been using them for over 20 years. So then I can look youthful. I lost 35 pounds when I decided to quit, competitive bodybuilding. A lot of guys probably wouldn't do that because they want to still look big. They still have their identity trapped into that champion look. They're probably thinking like sponsors won't care about me. The fans will talk and this and that. It's like, no. Like they want to know the person. So you don't have to be that size. I'm 248, 250 pounds. And I could probably lose another 10. And I don't put the same stress on my heart and this and that. And I'm willing to get the calcium score tests. I'm willing to do the IVs, the vitamin IVs, all that other stuff. All those modalities that you hear about, I do just to hope that I extend a fruitful life. Because look, if the doctor told me tomorrow, like, hey, you're only going to live to like 70, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that these next 25 years are the best based on what I know and what I have as resources.
Do you think with like the information, and I think like it's way more out there now than it used to be with things like TRT and peptides. I feel like every day I'm scrolling on social media, there's some new thing coming out. Do you think that it's gotten people away from like doing the work that it takes to like develop a great physique and almost convincing themselves they can't look a certain way without taking something?
I totally agree. I think it's based on the fact that they're comparing themselves to social media. I think it's a popularity contest on social media. It's as simple as that. You know, very few people probably want to compete that drive traffic on their social, because they know deep down, like, you can't Photoshop on stage. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to be compared against other people, you know, that don't have a following, that worked harder than you, that probably have better genetics than you. So, you know, I think, yeah, we're in a very interesting time, man. I think a lot of people do it for the clicks. I think a lot of people go to the gym for the phone. If there was no social media for like a week, you would see who's the real lifter and who's the tuxedo lifter. The tuxedo lifter is the one that has to have like the tripod and this and their camera crew and all this. The real lifter would just go. And I hope, you know, even through podcasts like this and just through my mission is to get people to understand, like, you should be lifting for your health, you want to get in the lifestyle, get on the lifestyle, but the lifestyle does not require you to have a camera. And I understand there's a way of commerce and merch and all that stuff. But could you imagine if you had the mentality of training just because you love it? And if someone captured you lifting the heaviest, it wouldn't matter. It just wouldn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, yeah, I guess it maybe would look cool. Like if there was cameras on me every freaking day when I was training for those Olympias, maybe. But I also had the opportunity to do it, and I didn't journal it like that. But people knew the result when they see the 3 different types of sandals in my freaking house. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to go watch a neurosurgeon do his work every single day to understand that he's a board certified or double certified surgeon, that I should want to go hire to go do my surgery, right? Like, I think the proof should always be in your performance. And I think right now that we're dealing with a lot of people that just want to be noticed through social media and not noticed just because they're a badass and can do it with or without the cameras on.
What has been your relationship like regarding like healing from chasing perfection? Like, what's that like in your day-to-day life now?
Meditation and prayer, man. Simple. That's it. Meditation, prayer, journaling. Yeah, that's it.
So if like Jay and Kai called you right now to run it back, the 3 of you in like a finale Olympia, you wouldn't do it?
No, I would not do it. I don't think that, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I do that. Jay's a little older though. So he's like in his early 50s now. Kai will be turning 50 this year. I'm 45. No, because it would require us all to like, I mean, Kai still walks around pretty big. So like, it would be easier for him. Jay and I, on the other hand, it would require us a lot of work. No, because I'd have to give up on everything I currently have going on. I would have to hop back on gear, get off the TRT and actually go full tilt. No, it's just, I'm comfortable finally at 250 pounds. I do not want to get up to 280 to come down to 250 shredded. I know it would look freaking awesome, especially what I know now. But yeah, like for what?
There's people like when talking about things like the NBA that were like, you know, like the NBA hasn't been the same since the Jordan era, since the Shaq Kobe era, since, you know, the Bird Magic era. I feel like that's happened in bodybuilding where things haven't been the same since the Ronnie J era, since the Phil Kai era. Like you said, people haven't really been dominating, you know, like they're like people did back in the day. Like how do you see the bodybuilding industry? How have you seen the bodybuilding industry change?
I mean, I see it just based on what the fans say. You know, I commentate both the Arnold and the Olympia, and more now than ever, fans are voicing their opinions on what the current product is, and they realize that the product was different when I was competing. I take that with appreciation, of course, but I try not to chime in too hard about it because it almost looks like I'm dismissing the hard work that we're seeing today. I think the guys that are competing at a high level. But yeah, I mean, am I going to say that I feel like I'm better? Of course I'm going to say that. I do feel that way. And I'm sure some other champions, I'm sure Ronnie Coleman probably felt that way when I was winning, when he was retired. Same with Jay, but I think what the athletes have an opportunity is to ask us questions, hit us up. Hey, I'm thinking about trying this. What do you think? Oh, don't do that. Do this. I'm full of free game. I ain't, especially when it comes to a pro, amateurs and stuff is a little different, right? But like when there's like a guy that's like right there and they're kind of stuck, man, you'd be surprised how many times I've voice noted IFBB pros or taken phone calls for their trainers and said, hey, this is what I think you guys should do. I don't get paid for it. I'm not looking to get paid for it. I just do it because I love the game. I want it to thrive. But yeah, I do believe right now that we're in a situation where we got some amazing talented people. And I feel like I do feel like they're missing the mark. I think that there's a couple guys, there's like 2-3 guys that probably could go the extra step to get more conditioned. And they're chasing that size a little bit too much. I'd hope that they hear it in a positive light. When guys like me say it, I say it only because if you were to do it, you'd be dominant and you would create so much distance on the field. It would just be, and you would love the way you look, you would love it even more. It would just require a different level of pain. To say it, man, they're probably like, man, I don't want to eat that, or I don't want to do that cardio. I don't want to do that. It's like, yeah, but like the end result is this,
What foods that were on your diet back then that will you never eat again?
Tilapia for sure. Like I'm not eating that. Like I don't even think I would eat that or orange roughy ever again. Like if you serve that, I'd just say no, thank you. Chicken I'll eat. Steak, of course. Salmon. I haven't had salmon in a very long time. I don't even eat sushi as much as I used to. I'm a red meat guy. Yeah.
But you could go out and like have like a couple slices of pizza and not feel bad about it afterwards now?
Yeah, I mean, and it would literally be just the 2 slices. It would literally just be that. Like I guess I've always been the type that just doesn't feel like I have to indulge like in the whole pizza pie. I can just have a few slices and call it a day.
Well, Phil, this has been awesome. I think people are going to really want to go watch the documentary after hearing this conversation. Where can people check that out if they want to learn more about your story?
You can check it out on Amazon Prime. You can check it on YouTube. It's all over, excluding Netflix. So don't go to Netflix. Go everywhere else. Okay. It's available everywhere. And then for people that are in other countries, Universal is the one that is doing the distribution. So in other countries, it might be available like on HBO, like on HBO Max or other streaming services. So just check them all, because even I was just made aware of the fact that, wait a minute, like Breaking Olympia is on HBO Max, but just not in America. It was in Europe. So it's in a lot of other countries. We're actually going on 1 year. I believe tomorrow is our 1 year anniversary of its release. So I'm very proud of it. I'm very eager for everybody to watch it and let me know what your thoughts are. I actually, on my social, I actually have a broadcast channel as well. So if you check that out, it's just on the broadcast channel, Breaking Olympia chat. Let me know what you think about it, and I'll probably chime in and voice note you guys.
Awesome. Well, I highly encourage people to check it out. I watched it twice. Super inspiring. If you don't feel like going to the gym, just watch that. Then you'll go to the gym right afterwards. So Phil, thanks again for coming on and being so honest, vulnerable. I really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I really think you're going to like this video as well. I'll see you there.